apex it again on the exit, because your exit speed on this corner doesn't mean shit, because you're just going straight into another corner. And so the goal is just to set up for that corner. And the reason being, if you took this and made a map out of it, this is a linked section. So everything you do in that first corner is going to affect what you do in the second corner.
Go ahead.
Because if you come into this one too slow or too fast, you're not really going to get set up for your exit. So you want to come in, you want to exit this one tight, and then try to carry speed. Now on your lightweight bikes, and specifically 400 and less, because the 660s and the 650s, are you crossing the seam there?
I don't love to, but
I do every time on the bigger bikes. But like I saw you one lap, you were on the inside and you got on the throttle and it got sideways.
Yes.
On you. Like I saw that. It was fun. So on a little bike, like the 400s and less, I will stay inside the seam all the way around this corner, and basically as soon as you get to about the last part of the candy stripe there, you should be back on the throttle. Like on the 300s, I'm wide open right there, like all that far in. On the little bit bigger ones, the 400s, I'd be like out here before I'm full throttle. But it's just like a wind up all the way up here. When you come out, you apex the second one here, shoot to the outside. The reason we're doing that is that we're coming up the straight. If you were standing out there looking at it, that track is like this. And that outside is about 2 foot shorter than the middle or the left. The middle is bumpy as fuck. So if you're in the middle right here, you're on the wrong line. You can go way tight, or you can go way out. If you're way tight, you have a drop off right here. If you're way out here, there's 2 reasons that it works better. Number one, it has to do with motorcycle engineering. Every one of our motorcycles has what Honda was the one that first said what they're doing. They have 2 flex on our chassis. So that frame is meant to move around when it's on the side of the tire. And that's what makes the bike work when you're on the side of the tire. But also, all these bumps that in here, the more you're leaned over in there, the suspension has to do less work. The frame is flexing and it takes away a lot of that bump. So as far out as you can, it makes it way smoother. Coming in here, this is the area where I'm really seeing the most amount of mistakes. Stay way out here, like within 3 to 4 foot of the very outside of the track. Do your braking, and then as soon as you start in, you're maybe trail braking for 15, 20 feet, and then get off the brake. You should be off the brake with enough speed to carry you through the right and the left without touching the throttle. If you get in the throttle at all between these 2 corners, you fucked up, okay? Because you're going to upset the chassis. Every time that you're leaned over and you touch the throttle, from no throttle to throttle or from throttle to no throttle, it's going to upset the chassis of your bike. It's going to move around a little bit. And that's what you don't want, especially in slow corners, because the bike has no time to react. If you're in a fast corner and you start to lose the front, you have time to save it. If you're in a slow corner and you start losing the front, you're on your ass. There's no saving it in slow corners. So get off with enough speed that you don't have to touch the throttle through the right. Basically, when we go through the right, we late apex it. We want to stay tight all the way to the end of the curving. And then we want to be about mid-track going towards that left. And then turn it tight. The apex to the left is after the curving in this green area. That's where you want to be tight. And what I'm seeing is a lot of Marquis, what you're doing, you're coming through here and you're on the throttle the whole way. So you came in too slow, and then you're on the throttle trying to make up for that, and then you're on the throttle all the way around, and then when you come out of this, a lot of people, even Kyle, who's hauling ass, he's taking this wrong. I'm calling you out. You're coming out, and then you're almost at the candy stripe.
I used the candy like a berm.
Yeah, but you shouldn't.
Right.
Because you can't get on the throttle all the way because you kept that big sweepy line.
Right.
When you come through here, you want to apex, get tight, and then go from here to here. So that way you can get the bike picked up. Now, if you could and stood and looked at that corner, right at the end of the candy stripe, it's got a low spot, and then it comes up and then it flattens, and it's about a foot of elevation difference. And so if you're wide open before the bike comes up and flattens, it's going to want to spin, try to high side you. And we don't typically see that on the little bikes a lot. We see it a lot on the big bikes. But what you want to do is come through here, off throttle, do your turn, apex it, and start rolling on. And then as soon as it crests and flattens, then pin it and head for that next corner. This one here, it's the same. It's a late apex. Start out wide. We have that little divot out here. It's a patch now. I say divot. It was a divot for 15 years before I patched it. So start outside, when you
outside the scene.
outside of the seam, and you have the dark patch there. That dark patch basically is the perfect spot to initiate your turn. That means pushing on the inside bar, and it's going to take it 5 or 6 feet for the bike to start to turn, but it gives it the perfect spot to cross the seam. Now, when I say perfect, there's a spot about this long on the seam, and it looks visibly different than the rest. So if you have your seam crack, and then this one spot, the seam crack kind of does this, and then comes back. That one spot is dead perfectly smooth. You'll never feel it, right? It's the only spot you can cross in that corner where you won't feel the seam. And it just happens to be in the perfect spot. You hit it, you apex that, 90% of everyone here is crossing the seam on the exit of this corner, and you do not want to. If you cross that seam and you're coming up to this next corner and you're already on the inside, now you have to go slow around this corner or you run way wide. And so if you try to keep your speed, you ran wide, now you're off, now you run wide, you're off, you run wide, you're off. You blow this corner, you're fucked up all the way to this corner, right? Like you just messed up your whole set of S's. Link section, right? Link section. So don't miss this one. No matter how slow you have to go through this tight left-hander, go that slow. When you come out of it, you can pick the bike up, you can pin it, you can get all your acceleration.
So is it fair to say that how fast you're going here starts like there?
Pretty much. Yeah, it's all linked. I wheelie on my 600s and 1000s. I wheelie coming out of this corner because I get it so slow, and then I pick it up and I'm wide open, and then I shift. Right as I'm starting to bend left, I shift. I late apex. This one's about 3/4 of the way through the curbing.
It's a great patch.
Yeah, that's all cement. That's a big piece of cement with rebar.
How do you aim for that?
I just go over it.
Go over it? No, just get through it kind of situation.
Yeah, kind of cut the corner, probably 6 foot in or 6 foot out. From realistically, if you're on a 300, you were wide open way back in here, right? On the 300s when you were riding?
Oh yeah. You roll it early and just wait for it.
Yeah. So on all the little bikes, I've been wide open here on an SV650 while I'm still going to the right-hander, because you need that wind up on the slow bikes to have enough speed, because otherwise it's like you're straight up and down and you're like, oh man, I could have went way faster, and you think that every single lap because you waited to get on the throttle tilt here. This corner starts way back here.
Quick question, when you hit that concrete square rectangle, like how many feet in do you hit this concrete?
I just try to make it to where I'm going to apex this one. However, I think it's like 6 foot, maybe 4 foot. It's not a whole lot. Going the other direction, I missed the concrete entirely. I'm like right on the curbing. The other thing is when you're coming through here, constant throttle. You should not be on and off the throttle through any of this. Find that RPM that works. If you can, go a gear high. Like if you feel you're coming out of here and you're needing to shift somewhere in here, shift way back here to end of third if you need to, or fourth.
Yes, like I'm short shifting it early and just lugging it.
Yeah, and the reason why, if you guys, everyone had a bicycle when you were a kid, right? So if you had that bicycle wheel in your hand and you sat there and turned the spokes and then held the axle because you wanted to see if your bearings are good or just fuck it off, and then you let it go down the street and into your neighbor's car. When you're spinning that bicycle wheel and you try to turn it, you know how hard it is? Now think about your crankshaft on the inside of that motor. That crankshaft weighs between probably 10 and 20 pounds. Like I know the R1's crankshafts are really, really heavy. So the more RPM that big heavy crankshaft turns, the harder it is for you to turn your motorcycle. So if you are lugging it, if you're gear high, you can go through all this much, much better. The bike just flicks, it's easy to ride. Exit speed at the end of this corner theoretically should be 115 miles an hour. Now, I'm not going to get there on the 300 real easy, but I gear every one of my motorcycles to be at 115, between 112 and 118 miles an hour in third gear, just for that. That's why I gear my bikes the way they do. So you don't want to have to shift on this exit. You need to be in whatever gear that you can get to the end of this corner without shifting, wide open. And so kind of adjust for that. If you need to do an extra shift, do it there. Most important corner of the track right here. Okay? Every mile an hour you carry out of here, you carry all the way down the straight. Coming in here, for the most part, stay inside the seam. and then you, right here, you kind of drift out about 10 foot and start this corner. If you can stay inside of the square patch there, you don't have to. You can run over it. It's not going to make you crash. It's just the line is inside it. There's 2 dark patches. First dark patch, go around the outside. When you see the second dark patch, you can either go right outside or right inside. But that second patch tells you it's time to start sucking it in. The apex for here and between, say, right here and right here, you should never chop the throttle, never even decelerate. It should be positive throttle only in that whole section. If you let off in between these 2 corners, not only did you go slower, but you overload the front end because you let off the throttle and all that weight goes in the front tire. This is off camber, so therefore you're just increasing your chances of crashing by getting off the throttle. If you carry a neutral throttle through it, you're fine. But apex it right past the curving, and the harder you push on the right bar while you're going through the left, the quicker the bike will flick from one side to the other, and the sooner you can be on the throttle hard, right? So the guys that are good right here are the guys that are just like, bam, I'm gonna push as hard as I can, that bike's gonna go slam, and now I can accelerate. And like I said, if you let off there, then it's just gonna run wide and your chances of crashing are greater. So if you kind of work on that, and especially this one here, getting it through, getting it turned early so you're coming out on the inside of the track instead of going this big sweepy thing, it'll really help. Like, and if everyone's doing the same thing, one thing that you guys will realize is the more competition you have with each other, the more it makes everyone better, right? Him chasing Jared last year made Kyle mad. I had a guy named Tom Hall out of Phoenix. We made ourselves on twins. We were beating the 600 by the end of our season. So it's all competition with each other, learning the lines. If you guys have questions, I'm retired now. I'll tell you guys all the secrets. Now, I always told my competitors the secrets. I always wanted people to race. If you guys got any questions, don't hesitate to hit me up.